up. So, Johnny English Reborn. A couple of people said, is the Reborn joke a joke about the Bourne identity? Johnny English Reborn. See, Reborn, pun, right? I think it was Colin, actually, who said that. If so, that joke is on a higher level than most of the other jokes in the movie. So the story opens up with Johnny English, Rowan Atkinson, in exile, having bungled made a terrible mess of his last mission. Now he's gone off to exile, has gone off to a sort of Zen-like Buddhist temple to learn the art of discovering himself and becoming a warrior figure, which actually seems to involve dragging around very heavy weights attached to Mr. Happy. That's the level of the humour at the beginning of the film.
Right.
And then he gets called into the High Master's office, where he is told that he is wanted back by MI7. Here's a clip.
Master, what is my destiny?
I'm in touch with a higher power. MI7 wants you on the first flight back to London.
Master, am I ready?
No. Window seat or aisle.
Boom.
And indeed.
Tish. So, here's the thing with the Johnny English movie. The previous movie was very, very successful and very successful abroad. And like this, as with the Mr. Bean movies, is clearly aimed at an international audience. I mean, they're not verbally heavy. They're basically a lot of slapstick, knockabout comedy. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is that when you consider how great a slapstick comedian Rowan Atkinson is, it's a shame that this isn't much funnier. Did you ever see the film, or maybe you saw it live on stage, Rowan Atkinson quite early on when he was doing his stand-up acting, which he mimed playing a piano? You ever see that?
No.
Okay, there's a piece of piano music playing and he's miming playing it. Just him on stage doing this miming. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He is such a physical comedian. He's somebody who has such an extraordinary way of expressing himself physically that every minute that he's on stage in Johnny English doing knockabout slapstick comedy, you're thinking, why isn't this funny? Two of the devices in the film, which basically it's a James Bond spoofy parody. The gag is that he's a rubbish secret agent, yet somehow all the pieces keep falling into place. One of the gags is that he gets given a drug that induces mania and then forces him to obey whatever instructions he's given, which means, one hand, we get to see him doing manic and, rubbery and all that stuff. And on the other hand, we get to see one point in which different parts of his body are fighting each other. Well, this sounds like it ought to be perfect Rowan Atkinson material. It's like a perfect setup. That's what he does. And yet it never comes together in anything that feels like as spontaneous as his best physical work. As far as the character is concerned, you remember the whole thing with Blackadder? It was the first series of Blackadder, he was a putz and a fool. And then they realised that actually that wasn't funny. What's funnier is when he was smarter than everybody else, but he was on the outside. Yeah. Well, as far as the verbal comedy is concerned, the putz element to the Johnny English character, I don't find that funny, but that's okay. We can get away with it if what it was matched with was slapstick. You look at the great work of the silent comedy, whether it's Chaplin or Keaton or Jacques Tati, who some people have a great amount of time for, not so much me, but they made great slapstick silent films. I mean, Tati ended up doing Playtime, and the problem in Chaplin, one of the great auteurs. There is just this sense with Rowan Atkinson is an unharnessed power in this film. I don't doubt that it'll make a huge amount of money. I don't think people will come out of it very entertained. It plays very, very broadly, but it doesn't feel like it's edited particularly tightly. But all the time I was watching it, I just thought, you've got one of the great physical comedians. You've got a setup which enables him to do nothing but physical comedy. Why isn't this better than it is? Why is there so much emphasis on the plot, shenanigans, the spying, the going this way and that, the hanging up? Just allow him to do what it is that he does and be better.